Hey there, my name is Craig, and I own a business in Northwest Ohio called C Imaging Solutions. We do real estate photography, videography, drone media, a number of other services, all centered on the real estate industry in Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. And I want to tell you a story about the business. This isn't about a commercial, it's not about advertising the business or what we do. I just wanted to introduce what we did to tell you the story behind the business. And it's going to be an unusual topic, but it's one that's near and dear to my heart because, just because it is. I know that doesn't sound real deep, but I felt really strongly that I needed to share this story. And it centers around how God intersects us in our everyday life, in our workplace, in the marketplace, in the world of business. Because when you think about God, a lot of times we think about him on a Sunday morning, maybe a Wednesday night if we're involved in church much at all. And that's about it. It's easy to kind of lose track of him during the work week when we get involved in our daily grind and in the job that we do each and every day. And you might be thinking, I don't want to hear about God, but I'm going to ask you, would you give me 15, 20 minutes? It's going to be longer than a normal YouTube video or the quick little 3-minute, 4-minute, quick hits that are popular these days, because this can't be a short, quick hit, because it's more important than that. It's not important because it's me. It's not important because of my business. It's important because of what God does in our everyday lives. And it's a real life story about God answering a prayer and making himself real to just an average, everyday guy. And so I wanted to share that story with you. So a little bit about myself and my background so that you understand why this story is so important to me and why I believe it can be important to you as well, and an encouragement to you. I am now 44 years old. I'm recording this in July of 2020. And most of my career, I worked in nonprofit Christian radio, nonprofit ministry. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I like to speak encouragement into people's lives. I fell in love with radio at an early age, and I learned very early the importance of words and what words can do to a person and for a person. There's actually a proverb that says the power of life and death is in the tongue. Our words are powerful. If you look at how God created the world, he spoke the world into existence according to Genesis. So anyway, words are important to me. And I've always wanted to be able to be an encourager to people. I'm an introvert by nature. I'm not the extroverted type. I enjoy quiet, intimate conversations with people where I can get to know people one-on-one. And I'd really like to be able to encourage others because I've had a lot of people encourage me. And I'm at a point in my life now where, especially now, I want to encourage others. And again, that's the purpose of this video. So Christian radio was kind of an obvious fit. And the other part of this is my heart is to serve people. So that's been my motivation for pretty much my entire life, of my purpose, my motivation, what I enjoy doing. And so, Christian radio was just a really good fit. And I kind of want to walk you through the various stations I was at and the jobs that I've had over 20 plus years. And it's actually part of my frustration as well, as I have had a good number of jobs. My example growing up was my dad, he was an electrician and he went into estimating, and that was his career. I mean, he stuck with the same company for years, and I've bounced around. So my model, my example, I didn't measure up to, and I kind of judged myself on that. But the fact is, I've always worked hard. My dad did instill that in me as a hard work ethic, and I'm very grateful for that. So anyway, my start in radio started actually when I was when I was 16, just before my 17th birthday, I was looking for a summer job, and my mom happened to be talking to the station manager and just catching up on, on what our family was doing, and mentioned that I was looking for a summer job since I was out of school for the summer. And the manager's name's Todd, and to this day, Todd is one of my best friends, and he was my best man at my wedding. I consider him a lifelong mentor and spiritual advisor and a pastor to me, even though I don't attend his church right now. Anyway, Todd told my mom, well, have Craig put in an application. I'm looking to hire a Sunday morning announcer. And she laughed and thought it was kind of a joke. And he said, no, I'm serious. My Sunday announcer is moving on, and I need to fill that position. Craig's been here. He's, he liked me. So I got home from school. My mom was there, and she told me that Todd invited me to put in my application, and I laughed as well because I thought it was a joke. I mean, who's going to hire a 16, almost 17-year-old kid to work on the radio? I mean, who would trust a teenager to do that? And she said, no, he's serious. And I'm like, okay, that would be a cool job, especially as young as I am. And so I put in my application, I went through the interview process, and I got hired and had my first job in radio at 16 years old, just before my 17th birthday. Actually, yeah, that would have been March and April. And so that's how I got my start in radio. It was a little station called WJYM, AM 730. It was out on Route 20 on east of Toledo. And yeah, that's where I dove into the world of Christian radio, and I fell in love with it. I really did. Ended up working there for 3 years. Graduated from high school, went to the University of Toledo to start with, and worked at JYM while I was at the University of Toledo as well. And in those first 2 years of college, I realized that the major I had chosen was not one I wanted to finish. So I started thinking about, okay, why did you allow me to get into Christian radio at such an early age? There's got to be a reason, and well, maybe that should be my career. And so I made the decision to change majors to communications, and also decided I wanted to find a Christian university to get my degree from, and had run across an article in the magazine that the National Religious Broadcasters put out when I was at work one day. And in the article, it talked about this college called Cedarville College. It was down in Cedarville, Ohio, a little bit south of Springfield, Ohio. Had never heard of it, out in the middle of a cornfield. My dad and I ended up going down there, and I was really impressed and made the decision to transfer to Cedarville College. And that's where I earned my BA in communications, specialized in broadcast management and sales. While I was there, worked for the student radio station, did sales and on-air work my junior year, and then my senior year earned the position of general manager of the student radio station, and had a fantastic time there. Got a great education. My advisor there, Jim Leitenheimer, was just a fantastic guy, but really poured himself into me and all his students, and yeah, just had a great experience there at Cedarville. Ended up graduating, had to get my internship to finish my degree, of course, and by the time that time had hit, my former manager at WJYM was now the manager of a relatively new Christian rock station in Toledo called Yes FM. They launched actually about the same time I got my job at WJYM. So I was familiar with Yes FM and really impressed with that station. It was definitely cutting edge, especially for Christian radio, Christian media. And I loved the youth and young adult emphasis that the station had. It was contemporary Christian music, some Christian rock, and there was nothing like it around. And so I called Todd and explained, hey, I need my internship, and I was wondering if you would consider taking me on as an intern at Yes. And there was no hesitation. He brought me on. Ended up working at Yes FM in Toledo for 8 years. During that time, I had met my wife. We got married. Also adopted our first son, Eben, who is now 15, and man, time flies. And it got to the point, as much as I loved Yes FM, I got to the point where the realities of life kind of set in, And I was looking at our finances, and I love Yes FM. I love nonprofit ministry, but you don't go into nonprofit ministry to make a ton of money. That's not your motivation. You do it because you love the work and because you have a calling to it. But the truth is, it had gotten to a point where I couldn't afford to continue to work there. And as much as our management and our leadership wanted to pay us better, being a listener-supported station, it was just hard. So I ended up having to move on from that ministry, and went to work for a company down in Bowling Green that was one of our underwriters called Daymark Safety Systems, and worked there for 2 years, and then ended up transferring to their sister company to do an e-commerce content editor position. I had done sales, inside sales at Daymark, and then did e-commerce at Century Marketing, and had a great experience there. Learned more great sales skills, learned a lot about selling on the web, e-commerce, how to build websites that really engage people, and got a lot of practical experience in my 6 years at Daymark and Century. But started getting restless towards the end of my time there, and was really starting to think about radio ministry again. I missed it. I missed the work that God had really called me to and put on my heart. And so I started praying about it. I'm like, God, if you want me to be in Christian broadcasting, the only way I can afford to take care of my family to do that is either land a program director position or general manager. And I was like, okay, God, I know it's a big prayer. I've been out of it for 6 years now. Am I going to be able to get back into the field at that level after being gone for 6 years? And so I started looking around, putting my application out, and nothing was happening. Wasn't getting interviews, or if I did get an interview, I didn't end up getting offered the position. And I thought I could keep struggling to knock on doors and try and do this, but I feel like I'm trying to force a door open at this point. God, if this is you calling me into it, then you need to make it happen. And so I stopped my search. I continued my work at Century at the time, and about a month went by, and out of the blue, I got a phone call. And the gentleman that called me identified himself and said that he was a board member of WPOS FM 102.3 in Toledo. And I was familiar with WPOS. I didn't listen to the station, but I knew who they were. I also knew they were the very first Christian radio station in Toledo. My perception of the station was it was an older format. I wasn't super familiar, so in talking with him, what he called about was, he said, "We are looking for a new general manager." And your name was referred to us as a potential candidate that we should probably talk to. And inside, I couldn't help but laugh a little bit, because WPOS was not the type of station I had envisioned myself working at because of some of the things I just mentioned. The format was an older format. It was it was a mixed format. It didn't even really, to me, have one single focus. There was sacred music, there was inspirational, choral, Southern gospel, and it was kind of all mixed together, along with teaching programs and preaching programs, both old and some newer. So I listened to the station and heard all of this and thought, okay, God, this isn't the type of station I would envision myself at, that I would have chosen to apply to. And I know that sounds like I'm putting the station down, but please don't take it that way. That's not my intent, because there's a God story here too. I did a lot of praying. I thought, God, I'm not a very bold person, but I feel like if this is where you're calling me, I need to ask a question of the board to find out if this is where I'm supposed to be. Because if I'm supposed to be here, I'm immediately going to want to make some changes to allow the station to engage a new generation of listeners and to engage the community at a whole new level, because I didn't hear about the station in the community hardly at all. And I thought, that's really bold to immediately in your interview say, are you willing to make changes? And basically, if you're not, then I'm not interested. That's not my personality, but that was just my reality and what I felt was needed if I was going to be there. And I thought, boy, that is a scary question to ask a board, and it would probably nail the coffin shut on any potential offer that I might get there. But I told him, I told the gentleman that called me, yeah, I'll sit down and I'll talk with you guys. You know, I'm going to pray about this, and we'll see where God leads. So sat down and interviewed in front of 12 people, the entire board of WPOS. Talk about a scary experience. I'd never experienced anything like that before in trying to get a job. But it went really well. It was a good interview. I felt comfortable. You know, there were some good questions asked by them, and it was getting to the point where I knew they were going to ask me if I had any questions. But just before that happened, one of the board members, Dan, piped in, and he said, one of the things that we realize we need to deal with is making some changes to the station to engage families again. We really don't have any families listening to this radio station anymore. It was a much older audience. The audience was shrinking with every year that was going by. And they said, we need to do something different. You know, are you the type of person that's willing basically to lead some change and help us figure out what those changes need to be? And I'm like, okay, God, this is where I'm supposed to be, because they beat me to my own question. And they ended up offering me the position, and I worked as general manager of WPOS for almost 4 years. And in that 4 years, there were a lot of changes. I had the awesome blessing of having a program director that I ended up promoting to that position. He had been an independent contractor that the station had on to help them with on-air. His name was Cliff Smithers, and Cliff had a background in radio, 20 plus years in Toledo area radio, and had been on the #1 station, a well-known country station, which he's back on now actually, and doing amazing things. And Cliff and I spent a lot of time in prayer and worked together, and he was on board with the vision that I believe God had given me for the radio station. And he made it happen. You know, him and the on-air crew, they did a fantastic job in bringing the station to kind of a today type of sound. We rebranded the entire station. We still had the call letters of WPOS, but we rebranded it as Proclaim FM. And because we really felt God had called us to proclaim hope and truth and the gospel to the greater Toledo community. Now, that all sounds great, and it was an amazing experience to be able to lead a station of that stature in the community that had been around that long, and to lead the types of changes that we made. It was an amazing learning experience for me. I learned a lot about myself. I learned about leadership. I learned about business. I learned about leading change. The station was well received by new listeners. You know, we of course had a lot of pushback from longtime listeners that weren't looking for change, and that was the pushback was the beginning of the hard part of my time at that radio station. And it got to a point where between just various things that were draining to me, because I am not a person that likes confrontation. I actually, for most of my life, have run from confrontation. It drains me, and I was facing a lot of that in leading the changes that I did. Couple that with I was working 60, 70 hours a week, a lot of times, a lot of weeks, to get things done. We had a very small staff and few resources, and when I own something, I work it hard. And when you throw yourself into your work, that can be a good thing, but it can also be a very negative thing. And there was some negativity to me doing that. It wasn't good for my family. That was probably the hardest almost 4 years of our lives as a family is my relationship with my wife, with my son. We ended up adopting our second son during that time as well. And no, I take that back. No, we did. No, he had just been born. Sorry, I'm recollecting as I'm recording this. It was hard. It was hard, like I said, on our family. I burned out. There's just no other way of putting it. I have to be honest. I burned out. Started seeing a Christian counselor during that time just to navigate my way through this unprecedented time in my life. And he told me, you are burned crispy. You need a sabbatical at the minimum, and think about something else probably to get into. And ultimately, I ended up moving on from Proclaim, and that was a hard time. During that time, I prayed a prayer, and this is where the story of the business starts. I prayed a prayer that was rooted in a long-time admiration of people that have a trade: electricians, plumbers, carpenters, masons, bricklayers. Just people that have a trade that they can do with their hands, that has tangible value, tangible results, that they can make a decent living at and can stick with for a while, and just know that you're working hard and providing well for your family. And I'm like, God, would you give me something that I could do like a trade, something I could produce with my hands, something tangible, physical. Radio is an intangible. It was really hard to measure effectiveness and value and things like that. And with just the various challenges that I had gone through in the 4 different radio stations I had worked at, I was really kind of craving something physical, tangible, that I could see results and measure and know that it was of value to somebody else, and something that I could take care of my family financially better with, because even as a general manager, the pay was challenging. Again, that wasn't my main motivation, but it was hard financially, to be honest, especially considering the fact that my wife stayed at home with our son before he was in school, and worked part-time, just part-time while he was in school, and then came back home with the adoption of our second son. And that's a choice we made. We knew it would be a struggle, but so don't take that as complaining. That was just our reality. And so when I moved on from Proclaim, I had already started looking for another position, but again, nothing was lining up. And the time came for me to step down from that role, and I moved on, and I had no job. For the first time since I was 12 years old, when I had my first paper out, I had no job. And that was for a period of 3 months, which, some of you watching this, you've gone through a period of joblessness, and you might think 3 months is nothing. But for somebody that had always had a job, that took great pride in working hard, that 3 months was an eternity for me. It was an utter eternity for me. And it was humiliating, and it was embarrassing to me. And I learned in that time that I had some pride that I didn't realize I had. I had become a prideful person in the fact that I was proud of being a hard worker and always having a job. And even though I might not have outwardly said anything or even acted in a particular way, I think I had a superiority complex over people that I saw not working hard enough. I'm going to confess that. And I got broken of that during that 3-month period where I realized, sometimes people go through a time of life that's beyond their control. It's not because they're lazy. It's not because they're not trying. It's just circumstances of life. And I went through a period of, I learned some brokenness in that 3-month period. So I'm praying that prayer of, God, give me a trade or allow me to work and serve in a ministry where I can support my family again, because that's still my heart. And looked around at different things, and nothing again was lining up. I was frustrated. Had even looked at a couple of positions at a place called Cherry Street Mission, in Toledo that does amazing work in Toledo to serve people experiencing homelessness. And there was only 2 positions on their website that were open. One was one that I couldn't take care of my family on what the pay was. And one I just wasn't qualified for. I think it was higher paying, but I didn't have the qualifications that they needed. So I kind of put Cherry Street out of my mind, and I was continuing to search, and I got a phone call one day. It's funny how phone calls seem to be turning points in my life. Got a phone call from a friend and brother and colleague that I had gotten to know while I was at Proclaim. His name is Charles Allen. And Charles had been one of the VPs of Cherry Street while I was at the radio station. So when I connected with Charles, when he called me, we sat down, and I met him at his church and just kind of caught him up to speed on everything that was going on and what had happened and where I was at in my job search. And Charles was, again, he was leading a church by this time. He said, "You know that I was a VP at Cherry Street?" I said, yeah. He said, "Well, one of the things that I did while I was there was I stewarded our relationships with area churches and pastors and made sure that we were taking care of the churches that were helping us and sending volunteers and things like that." He said, "Craig, I don't know anybody in the Toledo area that knows as many different pastors as you do." He said, "I don't know what the CEO is doing to fill that role that I had when I was there, in that specifically. Would you be open to me making an introduction and seeing if he'd be willing to talk with you about that role or anything else that they might have there?" I said, "Well, yeah, absolutely." Because again, my heart is service. I enjoy serving people, and as far as organizations, nonprofits, and ministries around Toledo that serve people, Cherry Street is the most well known. It has a great reputation in the community and does amazing work. So I thought, well, that would be incredible to work there and to be able to serve that way, yeah. And so I managed an interview with the CEO and one of the VPs that actually I had gotten to know also in my time at the radio station. And that interview led to me being offered a position as a donor development specialist at Cherry Street Mission. So part of my responsibility was helping to steward our donor relations and make sure that we were caring well for our donors and keeping them informed on what was going on, and letting needs be known, making phone calls, and just taking good care of the people that were taking care of Cherry Street. And it was an amazing position. And again, my time there learned so much. Learned more about myself that I didn't realize. Learned more about serving other people. Learned more about ministry. It was an intense time. Again, another intense year of my life. And I'm thankful for that time. Lots of lessons learned. But while working there, of course, my second son was starting to get a little bit older, and he's only 5 now, so this wasn't too long ago. Started looking at our finances again, and thankfully, financially, the move had been a lateral one for me from the radio station to Cherry Street, and I was incredibly grateful for that, because I don't know what we would have done if pay had gone backwards. But my oldest was middle school, getting close to high school, and I started looking at our savings and what we did or actually did not have set aside for college for him if he was going to choose to go to college, and just started thinking, I've got to do something else to earn some additional income. Again, my dad taught me a hard work ethic. So I decided, okay, I've already worked 60 to 70 hours a week before, and it nearly destroyed our family. I don't want to do that in a way that I'm not going to be able to see my family again. So I can't do a job in the evening. I need to be home at night to see my family, to see my boys, and to see my wife and spend time with them. So I'm going to need something that I can do early morning. And I discovered that there was a twilight shift at UPS and FedEx and companies like that, where I could get up super early in the morning, which is not as hard for me as it is staying up super late. I'm a morning person. And I thought, okay, I could do an early twilight shift at a place like UPS, and work 4 or 5 hours, and then I can go work my day job at Cherry Street, and I'll bring in some additional income for our family and start doing something to take better care of us. And so I went to my leadership at Cherry Street and explained the situation of, financially what we were facing. And they were very empathetic. I really can't say enough for them. And I'm really grateful for their compassion and their empathy through that. And explained what I was looking at wanting to do, and asked if I could adjust my hours just by like an hour or two, come in a little bit later so I could work this other job, and then just work later into the evening for Cherry Street. And again, they were very empathetic, very understanding, but they said ultimately that's not going to work. And the main reason was the busy season for places like package delivery services is the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas especially. Well, that's also the busiest time of year for an organization that is caring for people experiencing homelessness. Thanksgiving and Christmas are hugely busy. And they said, we can't spare you. We're not going to be able to have that kind of flexibility for you. And they were right. I mean, I couldn't argue that. I knew they were right. I just hadn't thought about that. I left that meeting kind of a little bit dejected because I'm back at square one now. God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do to take better care of my family financially? I know the ministry can't afford to pay me more, and I haven't been here that long anyway to ask for a raise. And so I was back at square one, a little bit discouraged. And the next day, my supervisor, one of the VPs, pulled me off to the side. He said, "Hey," he said, "why don't you start your own business?" And what? He said, "You do photography for us here and there. You've got your own equipment. You've got a drone. You've got a drone license to use it commercially," which I did. I cut out a lot of the story here. Photography had been a hobby of mine for a number of years, and I love photography. I love photography. Something I wanted to learn since I was a little kid and didn't have the opportunity until I was a full-grown adult, but there's a whole other story there of how I even got into it. He said, "Why don't you start your own photography business, doing whatever type of photography you would enjoy doing. You could set your own hours, take your own jobs, charge what you need to, and supplement your income." And I thought, that would be amazing. I would love that. So I thought about it, and immediately I came back with two things. I said, well, one, I have no idea how to start a business. Number two, I don't consider myself a business person. That's. And number three, I'm not a risk taker. And here's where the God story really starts. It was a God idea through a leader at Cherry Street that got the spark going, but then it was also God speaking through an individual at Cherry Street to challenge me to step out of my comfort zone and to walk in a little bit of faith and believe that God loved me and cared about me and would actually take care of us. And here's what he said. His name is Max. The culture at Cherry Street is a very no-holds-barred, call it as you see it, and truth culture. And he got very serious. Even leaning forward, he said, in response to these three pushbacks that I had given, number one, I'm not a business person. He said, "Were you not the general manager of the oldest Christian radio station in Toledo and start a sales effort to help the finances of the station and bring in more income so that you could do more work?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "And how much did you bring in via sales that first year that you did that?" And so I gave him the number. He said, "Don't ever tell me you are not a business person again. You led a well-known community radio station. You did a sales effort. You led the business aspects of that. Don't ever say you are not a business person again. And it was delivered like that. It was very serious, and there was not smiling. It was you're lying to yourself, and we need to get real about this right now. And I'm like, okay. And he said, and you're not a risk taker? He said, did you not lead that station through a major format change? Yeah. He said, that wasn't a risk? I said, well, yeah, that was a risk. He said, yeah, absolutely, that was a risk. Don't ever say you're not a risk taker again. And it was a reprimand in love, because I know what his heart was. And then the last thing, and not knowing how to start a business, he said, and at this point, I remember him relaxing some. He said, Craig, starting an LLC is not a hard thing. He said, I'll step you through it if you want me to. And he explained real quick how to do it. He said, I'm going to charge you $50 because I know what my time is valued at. It was tongue in cheek. But I sat back and I thought, yeah, that would be amazing. I would love that. And he's right. You know, God, you have given me some gifts and some talents. I have had some experience with business and risk-taking. And if this failed, it failed. It'd be a part-time side job anyway. I still have my job at Cherry Street, and it'd be something I would love doing. Well, what type of photography do I do, God? And that got me thinking. I didn't want to do weddings. I had been a second photographer for a wedding photographer on a couple of weddings and learned real quick, I don't want to touch weddings with a 20-foot pole. You know, there's 20 bazillion portrait photographers everywhere in this country, but especially around Toledo. And I thought that market is saturated, and portraits isn't my main love anyway. I love wildlife and nature and still life and things like that. But I thought, well, there's not much of a market for that to make a full-time career out or even a good sustained part-time effort doing nature photography. And when would I have time for that anyway? So I was thinking more, and I thought about real estate. I've seen a lot of real estate photos out there, and honestly, a lot of them weren't very good. Don't make the houses look all that great. A lot of people using cell phones to take pictures, and cell phone cameras just can't. They've gotten much better, but they still can't do what a full SLR camera, DSLR camera could do, and some good editing to really make pictures pop. And there's video tours that can be done. And part of that idea came from a relative who is doing real estate media full-time himself in another part of the state, but wasn't in Toledo. And I thought, that I could do. I think there's a market for that. I couldn't find, as I started thinking about this, I couldn't find a company around Toledo that was doing listing photos, video walkthrough tours of homes where it lays out the floor plan for you, drone media, FAA licensed drone media, legal drone media of homes, and graphic services like twilight editing or virtual staging, and bringing all of that into one appointment specifically for real estate, and that's all you focus on. That's your market. I couldn't find a company doing that could make it super easy and affordable for a realtor to get that kind of marketing and imaging to help sellers sell their home. So I decided I'm going to pursue real estate photography and videography and drone and everything else. And I got excited. So the idea for this business came out of an answer to prayer. God, would you give me a trade, something physical and tangible I can produce? Taking pictures produces a tangible result, something I would love doing. I love photography. I love media, and something I could support my family on. It's additional income. I could do this. So I went out and I shot 2 homes, one for a realtor that was selling a friend's home that I said, I'll do the photos for free. I need to start to build a portfolio. And so the realtor, she agreed and loved the photos. And then I went to my in-laws' house, who they have a nice home, said, can I shoot it? And so they got it all ready, and I added their home to my portfolio. And so I had 2 homes under my belt in terms of photos. And I sat down with a gentleman who was actually my former pastor, who was in the real estate market now, was working for a local brokerage. Sat down and took him out to coffee and explained what I was looking at doing. And he got really excited, and I said, I've got 2 homes that I've shot so far. Can I show you some of the photos and show you what I can do compared to cell phones and things like that? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So I walked him through those pictures, and his eyes got like this. It just got real wide. He's like, Craig, these photos are amazing. His name was Scott Estep. He said, these photos are amazing. And long story short, on the spot, gave me a 12-shoot contract to start my business. So I owe a man by the name of Scott Estep a huge amount of thanks for giving me my shot in starting this business. So I started shooting for him in the summer of 2017, part-time effort while still working at Cherry Street. And honestly, I just fell in love with what I was doing, and really enjoying every aspect of it. Enjoying working with him as a realtor, meeting the sellers, helping his sales effort by providing image marketing, taking great pictures. I was editing them. I was I started talking to more realtors. He started spreading my name, and by the early fall, I had just fallen completely in love with what I was doing, and had picked up a couple more clients, and started talking with my wife, and started dreaming and thinking and praying, and was looking again around the Toledo area, thinking there's a lot of opportunity here. And I told my wife, I said, babe, I think I can make a full-time go of this and do something I really love and not go through the struggles that I have for a while now in my employment, and work for myself and work hard and take pride in my work and make a decent living for us. And I'm still serving others because I'm getting to do something I love, but I'm helping somebody else accomplish their goals with what we'd be producing in terms of the image marketing. And I said, I know this sounds crazy. I said, but I think I want to pursue this full time. And she said, I'll support you in whatever you decide, and wherever you decide God is leading us, as a family, I will support you. And I told her, I said, if I don't try this, I'm going to wonder the rest of my life, what if? What if this had actually taken off and the business grew and I could take care of my family and do something I really enjoy doing and still have opportunities to speak encouragement into people's lives. I mean, I'm getting to go into people's homes every single day that are experiencing massive change in their life. Anytime you move into a new home, it's a massive change in your life. And there's a lot of anxiety that surrounds that, and maybe some fear in some cases or excitement in other cases. But you're going into the home of an individual that's going through a transition in life. And to be able to bring the presence of Christ into someone's home, even if I never say anything, and just to be able to bring his peace into a home is an amazing ministry opportunity that goes beyond anything I did in formal full-time Christian ministry within Christian radio, or even serving those experiencing homeless through Cherry Street. And so August of 2017, I decided to take the plunge and take that step of faith into something I've never done before, and that's to quit a full-time job working for somebody else and start my own company. And resigned my position at Cherry Street, and we did it. It was scary as all get out. I won't lie. I was scared to death. I'm like, what have I done? What have I done? I had a few shoots here and there. I started getting in front of every realtor I could find, every brokerage I could find. The fall is rolling on. It's getting into winter. And it didn't dawn on me when I made this jump that, winter, not a lot of real estate happens. There's not a lot of listings up and active. And but it ended up being a blessing that I made the change when I did, because realtors are incredibly busy people. And they don't have a lot of time for sit-down discussions, and you make a presentation and whatnot. But during the winter, they do. So I had the time, they had the time, and I got a lot of meetings and was able to build a lot of interest. And in late fall, up until that point, I was doing all my own shooting, all my own editing, getting photos turned around next business day by 5 o'clock. Video, I hadn't done a whole lot of yet. Honestly, I knew I had more to learn about video production and shooting. But photos, I was getting strong. But I figured out I only had capacity to do 2 listings a day and be able to turn those around in one business day. And it was about that time that I had that realization that this other family member that I told you about, through my wife's side of the family, came to me and made a proposal out of the blue to become the back-end engine of my business in primarily handling my editing for me, which is a huge time commitment. And at first, the proposal he made, I couldn't afford. And I told him, I was honest. I said, you do amazing work, and I know your business is successful. I know you're in multiple markets. I know what you're proposing would work for me. I just can't afford it right now. I can't take out a loan. I just wasn't going to start my business with a loan immediately. Some people would argue against that and say that you should, but that was what I felt God speaking to me was, don't go into debt to start this. So we left on great terms, ended the conversation on great terms. He wished me the best of luck, said, hey, anything I can do to help, just let me know. And I said, I appreciate that, truly. And I think about a month went by, and he called me back and said, hey, I want to sit down with you and talk with you again. And here's another God point, because I wasn't looking to talk with him again about that. I thought it was a done deal. And he came back and said, I want to repropose everything. And he did. And it got to the point where he told me what my investment would be in this to make this happen, and it was something I could do. I looked at the numbers, I'm like, that I can do. I said, I'd be dumb not to take advantage of this. And so God brought him out of the blue to allow my business to scale and go from 2 shoots a day up to 6 to 7 listings a day that I was going to be able to shoot and run a business and be able to take care of myself. And it worked out beautifully. We created the partnership, and here we are 3 years later. It's been running great. It was one of the best things that could have happened. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to help me grow and get to where I am today. Now remember, I was doing 2 listings a day at the most when I was on my own. In the 3 years that I've been running this now, that God has handed this business to me. That first summer and fall and winter of 2017, when I started at midsummer, I think I had 35 listings that we shot between July and the end of the year. In 2018, it was our first full year operating, and I say we because, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. 2018, I went from 35 that last half of 2017 to the entire year of 2018, we shot 535 listings. I was blown away. Phones started ringing, emails started coming in, people, having gotten referred to me by Scott, my first client, and then other realtors seeing these new photos on the MLS and, hey, who's doing this? And word started spreading. And so 535 listings that first full year. In 2019, I could see that the momentum was just continuing to build. And so I brought on another photographer in 2019 to help me through the spring and the summer, which is the busiest time for real estate. And in 2019, between the other photographer and I, we shot 971 listings. I'm just totally overwhelmed and thankful for everything that God has done for me in the business world, in the everyday marketplace, in the job that I do. It's easy to think of God on a Sunday morning when we go to church, if we go to church, and then go through the rest of our week not thinking a whole lot about him. But see, God doesn't forget about us the rest of the week. His word says that he knows the number of hairs on our head, which I think I might be getting fewer of those as the day goes on. But got to have a little bit of levity, right? If he cares about something that we might consider not that important, although some of us do think that's important, is the number of hairs on our head, how much more does he care about our everyday struggles and caring for our families, our jobs, our responsibilities, taking care of those that we love? Of course God loves us and cares about us in those everyday things. He's not just present with us at church in the church building on a Sunday morning, but he goes with us through our entire week. Whether we think of him or not, he's there, and he cares, and he's listening. And I want to encourage you through this video that he does care about you, that he can be active in your business life, in your job, in your work, no matter what it is you're doing, whether you're working outside the home or working inside the home. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom or dad or running a business from your home or out in the corporate world, it doesn't matter what your job is, he's interested in it. And he's interested in relationship with you. The fact that he lined up my business to grow so fast, for the number of shoots and clients that we serve now to have grown so fast, for that relationship with this family member that came and became our editing team, for all of that to have fallen into place the way it did, only God could have done that. I mean, yes, I'm going back to, I'm not a business person. Business strategy, I don't think a whole lot about that. I just want to do a good job. I want to do good work for somebody and work both hard for the client, but ultimately work hard for the God that I serve, because that's who I am serving. And as I work hard for him, that's going to show in quality and dedication and integrity to those that I'm serving in day-to-day life. I'm just so grateful and so thankful to be doing what I am now, and for him to have blessed the business the way he has, for me to be able to speak encouragement. I've gotten to pray with clients, both realtors and homeowners, who are experiencing just a tremendous stress in life. Moving and selling a house is one of the most stressful times of life. It's a time of transition, and anytime you have transition, you have anxiety or stress or concern or worry or fear, and some people get through it just fine, but for a lot of us, it's a very trying time. And so the ability that I have to go into somebody's home and to be, even if I say nothing, but to be able to carry the presence of Jesus into somebody's home, and that spirit of peace that comes with the God of peace, the Prince of Peace, into somebody's home, and be able to pray for them, silently or out loud with them if they accept. Man, what an incredible opportunity to serve God and his kingdom in everyday work. We have that opportunity, every single one of us. In however God shows us to do that, we have that opportunity. And I've never had a 3-year period of my life where I've been more thankful and grateful for what he's done in my life. And this might go another 3, 5, 10 years. I don't know. I've gotten to a point where I've quit worrying about what's next. I've got to be faithful in what I am doing today. And I might not be doing real estate photography 10 years from now. I don't know what he has for me. I just want to be faithful in the moment and trust and stop worrying about everyday things that we all worry about, and know that my God loves me, that he's going to take care of me, that he's going to be faithful, because my heart is for him. And if your heart is for him as well, and you're in a relationship with Jesus, you've made him Lord, you've made him your God, you're his adopted son or daughter, you're an heir. He's going to take care of his kids. We don't have to worry. And I know that's easy for me to say now. This would not have been easy for me to say in the midst of the battle when I was experiencing joblessness. I can look back now with that 2020 vision and see what he brought me through and how he grew me. Even the time at Cherry Street, I know that 3-month period was to break me to be more empathetic to those that we were serving. There's a purpose for everything in life. So I just want to encourage you to embrace what it is that you're experiencing right now in your work, in your job, in your marketplace, your workplace. Look for what it is that he's growing you in, and learn from that and take that with you into the next day and the day after that and into the next role or position that he's going to promote you to or move you to, or the new company or the new business that you're going to start. Search him with everything. Love others. God's going to bless that. Thanks for letting me share my story. I know this was a long video, but I wanted this to be an encouragement to you and a practical example and application of God in everyday life, in our workplace and in our business place. Feel free to share this if you know some people that it might be an encouragement to. Again, I know it's a long one, but you got to tell the whole story and let people see real life. I didn't want to edit and have a slick-looking production with a lot of bells and whistles. I just wanted it to be one regular guy talking to whoever's on the other end of this video, sharing real life and real faith and a real God that loves you and gave everything up for you through Jesus on that cross, taking our place. He loves us. If you want to know more, feel free to contact me. There's ways to find me, and I'd be happy to share more. Hey, have a great day. Thanks for allowing me to take some time out of your day and to share this story with you. God bless you.